where the view looks like the view I used to see. But somehow everything has changed. Everything is gone, and yet remains. I went to the shops and the prices are going up faster than our pay. And yet I'm doing the checkout like I've been demoted as a slave. Oh, somehow everything has changed. Everything is gone, and yet remains. Went to the bank and they greeted me like I was trespassing on their land. I wanted to scream, "You're built on my toil," because my blood was getting ready to boil. But instead my soul whispered to me, oh, somehow everything has changed. Everything is gone, and yet remains. How did we get here? How did we go so wrong? It's like we were singing or trying to sing, but someone keeps changing the song. But I remember when you were there with me, and the world was a child's painting full of trees, and the days were like today, except the days were louder and the laughter longer. And I just want to go there. I just want to go there. How did we reach here, where the view looks like the view I used to see? But somehow everything has changed. Everything is gone, and yet remains. If I could be anything for you, I would be your cure. I'd pour light into your wounds to soak their poison into the potions of love.
Here we go.
To the golden
Let's start.
smooth.
Jessica.
We're in Sejuna. Now you
Potion
have an extraordinary story.
of love.
I'm going to let you start.
Okay, so I grew up in this region and I moved away as a teenager to go to school and university and whatnot, and then
You became?
I became an architect. About 4 years ago, I moved to New Zealand for a change of scene, and I've been living there ever since and working for myself as an architect. My family are all still back here. You've probably seen some of them talking on this today. And my parents still live here, basically everyone except me. So back in... so New Zealand obviously shut down their borders and shut down their country quite severely to keep COVID out for a long time. I live in a small town in the South Island, which up until about a month ago didn't even have COVID. There was no sign of it, so it was kept out really effectively. I work for myself. I am probably in the top 1% of the world population that, in terms of my risk of getting COVID, it just wasn't there. You know, I was very safe. I was very protected from it. I'm a 37-year-old healthy woman. I don't have any pre-existing health condition.
You exercise and stuff?
I exercise a lot. The town that I live in is an alpine town. It's an adventure sport town. There's a lot of fitness people. So by comparison, I'm probably actually not that fit. But, you know, I'm fit enough.
You look very fit.
Thanks. Anyway, I had... I didn't want to get the vaccine for a number of reasons. I had several debates with my friends over how it and the mandates were an offence to freedom, and what was, you know, the point of having safety from a vaccine when it abolishes that fundamental human right to freedom of choice and freedom over your body. Anyway,
What was the other thing you said about you had an instinct?
Yeah, my intuition just strongly told me not to have it. So, you know, when you're having these conversations with people and they're like, oh, but what about the stress on the public health system? What about your duty to the community to protect them and keep them safe by, you know, having the vaccine? I was like, yeah, I understand all of those things. I'm not against that. I'm not out to harm people by not having a vaccination, but I just strongly felt that I shouldn't have it. And I couldn't shake that feeling. And sorry. And I struggled with that for a long time, and so I put off making a decision around it for as long as I could. And then my parents are quite elderly, and they had a couple of bad health turns towards the end of last year, and that's coincided quite spectacularly with the changes to the border restrictions and being able to travel between New Zealand and South Australia specifically, and the other states. And it just became kind of critical for me, and you know, it made my decision for me, because I didn't want to be stuck in New Zealand and not be able to come back here to see my family if something happened to my parents, most specifically, but in general. And so I felt like that was my reason for having the vaccination, against my inner knowing. So I booked it in, and actually a couple of times I booked it in and cancelled it because I couldn't do it. And my sister is very strongly, you know, she feels the same way. She thinks that it's an untested drug and blah, blah, blah. So she was in my ear about that, and I was like, it'll be okay, don't worry about it. You know, the risk, I know that there's risks, and, you know, I know that could happen, but I'll be fine. Anyway, I had the vaccination, and I was fine for about a week, and then I started to progressively go downhill quickly. Well, acutely. I got a migraine, and I've had a couple of migraines in the past, in a few years, which were mild in comparison and different. This one felt excruciating and emotionally.
How long did it last?
I had it for 3 or 4 days, and then I went to the doctor because I woke up one morning and I was just in tears, in pain, and I couldn't do anything. So I was just laying on the floor, and I had to ask a friend to take me to the doctor because I couldn't.
Taking any painkillers like Panadol or anything?
I'd taken Panadol and Nurofen as much
Did that
as
work?
I could. It wasn't doing anything. And normally with a headache, I don't like to take painkillers if I can help it. So I'd pumped myself with as much Nurofen and Panadol as I could, and it wasn't working. So I couldn't. I was sensitive to light. I was nauseous and just crying. I just had this personality change, and I started. Anyway, they took me to the doctor. My friend took me to the doctor, and he gave me a quick rundown and was like, "Oh, I think you've just got a bad headache," and gave me an injection of Voltaren and anti-inflammatory stuff, and sent me home to bed, and that helped. I went back to sleep. I slept it off for a day, and I woke up the following day and felt a bit better. I was able to get up and do something, and so I went about my day. And then I was noticing now in hindsight that my mood was really off. My personality, I was feeling quite agitated and grumpy, and I was kind of picking fights with friends that I wouldn't usually do. I was just out of sorts. And I went to bed that night, and my migraine was coming back. And then I woke up a few hours later in the middle of the night, and I was paralysed. So I wasn't thinking straight. I had lost my capacity to discern what was real and what wasn't, kind of like I was dreaming, but my arms were, they'd gone numb and they were all limp, and I couldn't speak. I went to try and say something like help or whatever. I tried to speak and I couldn't form a word. I couldn't use my phone. I sort of was going in and out of this conscious state where I would realise that something was wrong. I thought maybe I was having a stroke or something. And then, like a second later, I would lose it, and I wouldn't know what was happening, and I couldn't do anything. And I had these flashbacks later. So somehow I ended up out in the living area, and my housemate heard me, and it was the middle of the night. So luckily she woke up, and she was the one who had taken me to the doctor. And so she found me, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I couldn't speak. I couldn't say anything. I was just stupefied. I couldn't walk properly. So she called the ambulance, and they came quickly. But then they couldn't work out what was happening to me, and I don't really remember this. I don't know if this is accurate or not because I was going in and out of consciousness. But essentially, my brain just shut down. So, and they flew me off in a helicopter because where I live is in a remote town. They flew the helicopter to the Dunedin ICU, and I was already going into a coma. I'm pretty sure. I was going in and out of consciousness, but then they put me into an induced coma for 3 or 4 days, and I got encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain. I've recovered pretty well. I was in hospital in total for 2 weeks. When I woke up, I have got a traumatic brain injury, so basically brain damage to my frontal lobe. I lost my ability for a few days when I first woke up. I lost my ability to speak properly with my word recall. I lost, my functionality. I didn't know my left and right. So I was utterly confused about all kinds of things. I couldn't really walk without falling over.
Did the doctors say what it was?
No, they've put it now as encephalitis, autoimmune ? Possible vaccine. So they all on record. The doctor that I had there, she submitted a report to the New Zealand organisation as a vaccine injury, and to get an exemption for me for getting any other vaccinations. And in that report, it stipulates that it was highly likely caused by the vaccine. They tested me from here to there with everything, and they couldn't find any other cause for the encephalitis, because it can be from bacterial infections or tick bites or anything like that. So there was no other cause found. They did a zillion different tests. And yet I got an exemption, which is pretty hard to come by, but it was a temporary 3-month one from the New Zealand Ministry of Health, so they recognised it. I still haven't heard anything from CALM in terms of it being registered as a vaccine injury. And all the doctors there, the doctor that I had, the neurologist, the other neuro person, all have told me kind of off the record, definitely do not get another vaccine. My GP has put it on record and said do not get another vaccine, but there's a lot of resistance there with them being able to have any power over saying, and a lot of fear there to say it. I overheard when I was on the ward and I had sort of come back into my senses a bit. Sorry, is this raving on too long? I could overhear, my hospital bed was near the reception desk, and they were talking about it, and I could hear them outside my hospital bedroom, and they were like, this is a lawsuit waiting to happen, like these vaccine injuries, not just mine specifically, but the way that it's being handled and the lack of power that they have to do their job basically, and report accurately on what's going on is not there. There's too much red tape for them, which is really alarming. Anyway, so that has happened to me. I have since lost my ability to concentrate. I'm getting better now.
How are you going with your job?
I had to cancel all of my contracts. I've basically put my business into hibernation. So I've lost my...
How are you surviving?
Well, I mean, luckily I'm a fortunate person, and I have a good supportive family, because if this had happened to a lot of people, it ruined them. It has ceased my business, it ceased my income, it ceased my ability to do it, even going forward. Well, I don't know yet. I mean, I'm hoping it will come back, but at the moment it hasn't really. I can concentrate for about an hour or two a day now, maximum, and it's not even...
And what, the rest of the time, you're just fuzzy, or...?
I'm just fuzzy, and I have to rest a lot because my brain is recovering still and regenerating, and so I have to just have a lot of naps, which is fine. I like napping, but it's not conducive to doing what I used to do. It's completely changed my life, and then so now I'm in the fun loophole of being partially vaccinated and having a medical exemption, which is worth less than the paper it's written on.
And tell us about, was it you that was thrown into...
Yeah. So I just came back to Australia a couple of weeks ago for the first time in a year or so, nearly a year. So I had all of the paperwork. I jumped through a lot of hoops and while I was in New Zealand to try and figure out what I could do to get back here without having to quarantine, or just as easily as possible. And I had the temporary medical exemption and the international vaccination pass from New Zealand issued by the Ministry of Health exemption documents, and another backup certificate from my GP, which ticked all of the boxes according to the internet, according to the state protocol and the Home Affairs protocol for getting back into Australia. But when I arrived here, and I spoke to them prior on the hotlines and whatnot to see whether or not that was what they needed, and they're like, yeah, that's fine, you'll just get assessed on arrival. So I flew into Melbourne Airport, and Border Force looked at my documents and scratched their head and threw me in quarantine. and
It's hotel quarantine?
It was hotel quarantine, yeah. It's the new facility they've built about a half an hour outside of Melbourne Airport, so it's like...
Mickleham?
Yeah.
You were in Mickleham?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
I think, yeah. So,
What was it like?
well, I mean, it's brand new. Like, it's like a detention centre in the middle of a paddock.
And it's surrounded by razor wire.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I was the only person on a bus. Like, I had to go through 4 or 5... Once Border Force had decided that that's what I was doing, honestly, I don't think they knew how to deal with the paperwork, because the girl scratched her head and walked off and came back and walked off and came back. And then she was like, okay, here you go. And I was like, oh, good, I've gotten in. Thank you. And then she didn't say anything to me. She didn't say, okay, you've got to go into hotel quarantine. She just handed me back the card. And then off I went to the next customs guy, and he's like, oh, you have to go over here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you have to go to hotel quarantine. I'm like, oh, well, I don't think so. I've got all of this exemption paperwork. And she just looked at it, and she didn't say anything about it. And he's like, no, that's what this means. And then I went into this other line to go into quarantine, and I got spieled with the...
How long were you there?
7 days, 7 nights, yeah. So I was pretty furious, because none of them... I showed them all my paperwork, and they were all like, oh, well, we're not really sure whether or not you should be here. And I'm like, well, can you do something about it? No, we can't do anything about it, because Border Force override us and they put you in here. So, and they're a different state department. So anyway, they shipped me off to the quarantine station, and it was okay for what it was. It's quite clinical, but I had a balcony, and I had outside access to that balcony, like fresh air access, So I think that's better than being stuck in an actual hotel with no windows, which I know a lot of people have had to deal with. But I was infuriated because I didn't expect to be there, and I thought that I'd jumped through all of the hoops that they needed me to jump through. I was exhausted and emotional because of what I've been through, and they didn't even really consider that I was in recovery. I think that's probably an alarming thing. Like, if you're going to stick people in these facilities, understand there would be people more traumatised than me going in there, that can't cope, that need care. I'm coming home to be with my family because I'm in recovery mode, and I want to be in that caring environment, and to be stuck and taken off to that place is not what you need. It's not.
It's not Australian.
It's not Australian, and it's not necessary. I had a negative PCR test. I had another negative rapid test when I got there. I'm like, what am I doing in this fucking place? What a waste of everyone's time and money and energy. Anyway, I just want...
How'd you get from there to here? Anyone come and drive?
No, I left in a taxi once they let me out, and went back to the airport and got on a plane and flew to Adelaide, and then I flew to Ceduna. And I could have just done that to begin with, and everyone would have been fine. Yeah, we did consider driving all the way, but I can't drive that far. I was like, maybe I'll just... Because there was another stupid debacle with whether or not, when I came into South Australia, that I'd have to do more quarantine because the rules are different. And no one could give me a straight answer. I rang COVID SA and they told me, no, I don't. I rang the Victorian Quarantine Department, and they said, yes, you do. And then they talked to the South Australian Quarantine Department, and they said, you probably will have to. And I was like, well, I don't know who to believe, but I'm just going to try my luck. And then I just flew in like any other person, luckily, and didn't have to do it. But the confusion, or the lack of clarity between all of the departments, is mind-boggling.
What's your name?
I'm Nicole.
Nicole, and why have you come out here to tell your story?
I have come out here to tell my story as the mother of a child with a terminal disability, and how the medical industry and allied health industry are choosing to actively discriminate against families being able to access their services.
Can we know something about what it is? It must be very severe.
My son Toby is 7 and he has a very rare genetic disability called Cockayne syndrome. He's only about one of 5 people known in Australia to have that, and it's neurodegenerative, so we know that at some point he'll have to leave us.
What do you mean by neurodegenerative? Something in him is...
Yeah, so it's a DNA repair issue. So essentially his body ages faster and it lacks the ability to be able to repair itself. And there are other complications with that as well. So his eyesight, his hearing, he is mobile, but it's difficult for him. His speech is impacted. So, you know.
What's he like?
The biggest firecracker you've ever met. Wonderful. He puts the fizz in our life, is what I say. He's just amazing, and he's just full of life, and he's loud, but he's the best. Yeah, we love him. He's just amazing.
That's gorgeous. So it's going from there. So what's the medical establishment like?
Look, it used to feel quite good, and I felt supported in being able to receive the therapies that we needed to, and I think, like anything, special needs mothers find out more by speaking with other people in their own tribe about what they can access. And then one day I took my child to occupational therapy and I was handed a piece of paper that from now on I was not allowed to enter the building unless I would show them my COVID-19 vaccination status, to which I replied, I don't reveal that status to anyone. I think it's grossly inappropriate. Now for me, because he's 7 and he gets along with his therapist really well, that's fine. I can grab a coffee and go hang out in my car for an hour. But when he was a toddler, I would have to be inside. I'd have to be in there making sure mum's around, as is appropriate with a young child. And to me, it makes absolutely no sense. These people are not under a government mandate to do this. They're choosing to. Not all occupational therapies do this. This business is choosing to, and others. And they're not requesting the vaccination status of my child. And they work with him face to face and cheek to cheek for 60 minutes. But yet, an adult can't walk the child into the actual building. So, you know, because science. So when are they going to start?
Have they explained themselves at all? If you brought this up, have they done any explanation of the common sense behind their science?
Just keeping people safe. Okay. So my child's therapist is amazing and very awake, does not like it one bit. She finds it disgusting. The boss woman there, I did think about approaching her. If I didn't have such a wonderful therapist, I would take my money elsewhere and I'd give her a piece of my mind. But because he loves her, I stay. And because he's got a therapist who, she knows it's all just ridiculous. But
Can I ask, if someone in your position, finding a therapist that works and who your child works with would be crucial?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And there's wait lists for absolutely everything. You cannot just say, oh, okay, I'm going to choose to walk out of this allied health facility and just go to the next one. You'll be on a massive wait list. I have done a bit of research in the city of Joondalup. I'm part of Pro-Choice Joondalup. And I do have a list of businesses that are choosing to discriminate. Not all of them do. So it's not coming from the government. I believe it's coming from APRA recommendation and probably from the Speech Pathology and Occupational Therapy Associations as a recommendation. But it just lacks common sense. You know, and how long until they'll discriminate against the children? You know? And so families can't access services. And I do know of someone, in order to have her child assessed for autism, this particular, because she's been waiting to get in. And she found somewhere where she could get in. Now, in order for her to take her child to be assessed, she needs to be double vaccinated. So she went and got her second vaccination.
So she didn't want to get it, she got it for the child?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this business, when I've spoken to them, they said that, oh, well, you can drop your child off for the assessment and wait in the car park. Not appropriate when your child's 3 with severe anxiety and likely autistic.
You don't need that. Your child's 3. It has to be with the parent. Your child's 3. You don't need to justify it any other way.
It's just mind-boggling. And another thing for me, I have mentioned to my local council, you know, imagine having a child with a terminal disability who declines in health and is dying. Do you send them to hospital for medical care to die comfortably but without their family, regardless of their vaccination status? That's nothing to do with it. It's the hospital restrictions. Or do you keep them at home to die without medical intervention and possibly painfully and traumatically, but surrounded by their loved ones? And these are the things, unless you're in this boat, you may not think about that, about the families with children with severe illness, with cancer, only one person being allowed to accompany them, regardless of if your whole family's vaxxed or unvaxxed. You can't have these people in hospital. And it's just, where's the humanity? Where is the humanity? You know, it's here. We need to learn to live with it. It's here.
It's here. Yeah.
And it's not nice, you know, and if I tell you my honest opinion, instead of getting angry at the people who may be transmitting it, get angry at the bloody person who created it in a laboratory.
That just put us on Rumble.
That's my belief. Do I have all the science to be able to back that up? No, but that's, to me, that is a likelihood.
Can I ask, has it changed you? Are you a different person before the child to now, after these 7 years?
Yes.
In what way?
Oh, I think you appreciate your children much more when you have one that you know will not be with you forever. And seeing, I just think the nature of who he is, everything is a wonderland to him. And he is a joy. Don't get me wrong, he's hard work and he's a rat bag sometimes. But he's loud and proud and he just loves life, he loves people. And I think the simple things like ice cream is just the absolute bomb for him. And I think you also find places in yourself that you never knew that you had in terms of joy and in grief as well. You would never be the same. Never. But you also have heart for people that, well, I feel bad because until I had my child at a special needs school, I never saw inside their world. And now I've seen mums crying in the car park as their children are, you know, having full-on meltdowns and not wanting to go in the classroom and just trying to get your child dressed or breakfast in the morning, and there's these mothers crying. And I never saw them before, but I see them now. And they're my people. Like, I know. All I can do is hug them and just say, I know. It's hard. So that's changed me for the better.
So what do you want to happen? What do you think we should do as a society now?
What do I think we should do as a society? It depends. If I'm being unrealistic, and I know it's an unrealistic reality, give our lives to Christ and serve him, which I know is not for everyone. I think we just need to love. I just think we need respect. And people say that we live in a democratic society. Well, then just respect that other people are going to have different opinions and things like that. I think people's tolerance for anything that's against what's coming out of their television, you know, has just, it's like you're not allowed to disagree. You don't have to argue and try to change people's minds, but you can respectfully disagree. What is wrong with that? You know? It's not my job to change your mind and say, you need to think like me.
We can have a conversation.
Yeah. Why can't we all be friends?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, we grew up with Ford and Holden.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
We have this in us. What's better? This is how we were. We didn't go into a record store and just have the one record that we all bought. We had all these varying different. This is who we are. This is what makes Australia wonderful. This makes a free society wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. Free society. If we're truly a democracy, then the good thing about that is that we have freedom of speech, and we are able to freely disagree and respectfully disagree. And that's democracy.
What do you say to those people who say we're selfish? I'm not saying you, I don't know what your status is, but if you wear one way, they say you're selfish for not doing it.
As a mother of 3 kids, I make no apologies for being, if in what I do, if somebody else thinks that's selfish, I don't care. My priority is my 3 children. And if you're a mother or a parent, that's your priority, is your children. You have to do what you believe is right for your family. And that's it. And I make no apologies for that. Now, if I was walking around extremely sick and coughing and spluttering on everyone, yes, okay, that's selfish. You should probably be at home. You know, it's common sense or the bleeding obvious. But you're talking about putting something into someone's body here, and particularly the new technology, something that's not been around very long. Everyone has the right to be selfish, to think of themselves, to think of their health before they decide to do that. And I respect that, whatever your choice is.
What's that again? You said about giving your life to Christ. So you're a believer?
Yes. Yeah, I have been for about 12 years or so, just over. Yeah.
And how's your belief manifest? How does it help you? What do you get from it?
Because I see that there's more than just the here and now in what's going on. If all I had faith in was what's here on earth, what I can see and feel and touch, this place is pretty shit. I'd be quite happy to get on out of here. But I know there's an eternal perspective. I know that God is for us, not against us. And I know what is to come according to the book of Revelation. And this may be it. It may not be. I know that this is a lead up to what's going to happen in terms of end times and the rise of the Antichrist. But my point of view is I don't need to roll out the red carpet for him. I don't need to be. You know, it does say in the Bible that, it talks about one world government, cashless society. It talks about the rise of the Antichrist, who'll be someone who's quite a seductive character, well-liked. He might seem almost godlike, solve all of our problems. But beware, if you see this person rise, just stand back for a little bit until the true colours come out. But I don't need to welcome him on in.
Can I ask too, I wrote a piece once about a relationship between an old man and a little girl, and it was about God, and the old man told this little girl had problems, that all of God's angels have problems, and she asked him why, and he couldn't answer it. Why do you think God gives us such problems?
Because we're a fallen world. So if you want to get theological here, and I'm not a theologian by the way, it goes back to the Garden of Eden and God just laying everything out for us and having this utopia existence, and there was one thing that you're not allowed to do, which was knowledge. You know, I think it was the tree. Eve partaking in doing something that God told her not to, which is...
The apple.
Yeah, which is known as the fall. And then all of a sudden they realised that they were naked and things like that. So they had this knowledge. They were very innocent before that happened. And then all of a sudden they have this knowledge of different things and saw the world differently. And, and it's a shame. I did hear a pastor say when he gets to heaven he's going to go punch Adam in the face. eating that up.
Can I ask, do you get angry with God about your son? Have you been through that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I have. It doesn't... God is... you can tell him anything. And if you're not telling him, he knows what's in your heart. So absolutely, you don't hold anything back from God. He will answer you in some way, whether it's through the scripture or in your heart or in your mind. Some people actually hear audible words. So absolutely, yeah, he knows. And he loves my child. But I'm at that point of acceptance now with my Toby. His disability is part of him. And I would never want to change him. And his life was short, will be short. But what a life he's lived. And he touches everyone. He walks into my church and he's the first down the back with all the elderly and the crippled, high-fiving and shaking hands, and they start bringing him money and lollies because he sees them. He sees them. So he is a gift, and when you can change your focus, no one ever promised you that life was going to be, you were going to have these healthy children who were smart and good at sports and good looking. No one ever told you that. You came up with that in your head, Once you can sort of realise that life's full of twists and turns and curveballs, and you can deal with that. Yeah, but I've always seen God in Toby, always. Since the moment he came out, he was a little fireball, so yeah.
You've definitely grown through Toby.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I'd say to anyone, if you're angry with God, tell him. He's big enough to handle your anger. He's big enough, and I wouldn't turn away from God and just deny that he exists, because I know that he exists. So for me to get angry and say, well, I'm going to pretend you don't exist now, it's just, he does. So take it to him and say why. I've had a friend amongst all of this stuff going on who went down the beach one night and literally screamed into the wind. Beautiful.
I know how that feels.
Beautiful lady. She's a chaplain, Heart of God. She's amazing. Oh, yeah, and she's stuck over in Queensland right now because she went to her father's funeral. We don't know when she'll come back.
Can I ask, is there anything else that you'd like to say to finish off, maybe to the people who are listening? You can do that to the camera.
Okay. I would like to say that if you're in the boat where you're trying to access services for your children and you're finding that you're not able to take them to medical appointments or allied health, do everything you can. There's pro-choice groups who actively work together and take it to their local council. Write to your politicians, but they'll probably send you back nonsense propaganda, which I tell them, don't send me your rubbish, please. But you need to get out there. You need to make people aware, because unless you're in this boat, people don't know. So make it known, because it's unjust and it's unfair.
Can I ask one more question? Were you this tough before Toby?
I think I've always had a bit of rebel in me somewhere. Yeah, I think it started in high school. I was quite a good little girl, and then something happened. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so this is, I've never met Toby, but I used to work with disabled people, and when I came to them, I was quite broken. I'd lost a marriage, I had a bad motorbike accident, so I was limping, and I was in the wars, and yet these people were in a far greater war. And by being their limbs, by doing what they couldn't do for them, they actually repaired me. The amount of worth they gave me, the amount of joy, made it a job that was the hardest job to leave ever. I loved it. Is that what Toby does?
He's just a shining light, and he's like that everywhere he goes. He's extremely social, and his face is just so open and joyous. And if he was here now, he'd be running around exploring every, nook and cranny and tree and bird, and
so he's like sucking up the life.
He's sucking up the life, and sometimes I've got to try to keep up with him as someone in their 40s now. But he teaches you the simple joys, the joys that we forget to see when we're adults. And you go back to the simplistic things, and you go back to just the relationship. He's all about relationship with people. And I actually find the best thing about people with disabilities is when they're happy, and when they're not, they're not. There's no bullshit. And I love that, you know. It's very real. And when he loves, he loves. There's nothing else. He's not hiding any part.
Although I've got a family, you didn't.
Brittany Brooks now.
Yeah, and he's a wonder and he's a blessing, and I wouldn't change him for all the world.
Remolding the bars that held you into your destined wings, into your destined wings, flying above us all in your destined wings. And if from your flight you return,
We'll start off just with your name.
Brittany Brooks.
Brittany Brooks. Now, let's just begin with your story. Just start at the beginning.
So I'm in WA. So we had really strict mandates brought onto us from like our government, and they were basically saying if you didn't have a vaccine, you couldn't go out anywhere and do anything. It was affecting some people's work. Basically, being a 20-year-old, you obviously want to go out and live your life. And although I've got a family who didn't believe in it, I was like, oh, I won't be one of those people that have anything go wrong with them. And anyway, so the borders were opening, and our state parliament said that they were going to bring in more mandates to people who hadn't had it. So they already had some brought in. This is in January. And the borders were opening, and they were really pushing that there was going to be more and more things that were going to be mandated. So out of fear, I kind of thought, well, if the borders open and I don't have a vaccine, I need to work. How am I going to, I just bought a house. So then I went and had my Pfizer jab on the 14th of January. And 5 days later, I was getting chest pain, heart palpitations a few days after.
Can you explain what the chest pain was like, how powerful it was?
So the first day I had nothing wrong with me, and the next day I woke up with a sore arm. And then on the Sunday following it, I was getting pressure, like someone was sitting on me. And I kind of thought, oh, this is a bit weird. Like I didn't overthink, didn't think too much into it at this point of view, because it wasn't like stabbing pain at this point. It was like someone sat on you. So it's not enough to be like, oh my God, what's going on? And it was, at this point, it wasn't too bad. And then the Monday I started losing my breath really badly, and I think I was walking the shops with my nana, and they'd just brought in the mask mandate though. So I was like, oh, it's just the mask. And looking back now, I should have gone to the hospital a lot earlier. And then the Wednesday, I woke up, excruciating pain in my chest. You can feel it it's like in the middle of your chest. It's like a stabbing pain, and it was like someone was sitting on you, like you couldn't breathe. So at this point, the breathing wasn't just from walking. Like I'd woke up very shallow breath, like someone was sitting on you. And I was getting like pain up my neck, my left side of my neck, and like pins and needles. So I called my doctor, and he was like, you need to talk to someone, we have like a COVID team you can call if you're having a potential vaccine adverse reaction. So I called them, and they're like, you need to go to hospital straight away. So they talked to me for about 15, 20 minutes. You have to do all these questions with them. So I was talking to them.
Can I ask what sort of questions they are?
They asked how long ago you had your vaccine, what vaccine you had, do you have chest pain? Are you fatigued? Are you dizzy? So your general type of questions like that. But you get put into like different categories by the end of the thing. So it's like not related, monitor for symptoms, go to the doctors, go to hospital, call an ambulance. And the lady that I spoke to said I was on borderline calling an ambulance. So I went to the hospital, I went to Royal Perth, and I called my partner and was like, I need you to, so I think there's something wrong. Because you kind of think, oh, it's not going to be me, nothing's wrong. Especially at this point of view, I hadn't looked too much into everything.
That's called being young.
Yes, I should have listened. That's okay, definitely now. So I was like, okay. And I knew in the back of my, like I had this gut feeling. I was like, it's happened. Like I knew I was having a reaction. So I go to hospital and I walked through and I was like, hi, I'm having chest pain. And I had my Pfizer jab 5 days ago. And I'd walked in and I was fine walking. Like I was out of breath because where the hospital was located, it's kind of like on a weird hill from where I'd parked. So I was really out of breath at this point. But I walked in and they were like, we're getting you a wheelchair and we're going to bring you straight through. So I basically just walked, like I walked in, told them my name and stuff, and I went straight through. Then what happened was they put I think it's a 9-leg or a 12-leg ECG monitor on, and they were just monitoring. They didn't really say much at this point. They kind of were just like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. They didn't even say this could be a potential reaction. Like they were obviously trying to keep me calm. And then a male nurse came in, and said that I was really tachycardic, which I didn't know what that meant. Obviously, if you're not in the medical profession or if you don't experienced in life to know that. So he was like, your heart is completely all over the place. It was going from like 110 beats to 180 beats and back and up and back and down, 80 beats to like 130. And I wasn't moving. So I was just sitting, I was just laying down. So he was like, your heart is completely unstable at the moment. So we're going to do a chest x-ray and an ultrasound. So I did the chest x-ray about an hour afterwards, and they said we're going to repeat your ECG in about an hour. So I did the chest x-ray, which I think it came back clear. From at this point, I didn't know that. They were just like, okay, you're going to do that. And then so we're going to do your next ECG. And they're like, it's probably best if you start telling your work that you're not going to be in for the next few days. And at this point I was like, if there's nothing wrong, like why are you going to tell work? And it wasn't like it was 3 o'clock in the morning or anything like that. It's not like you're going to have, I'm starting work early. Like it was in like 5 or 6 o'clock at this point. So I was like, okay. In my head I was like, something's obviously not right. And they're like, we can call your work if you want us to tell them. And I was like, no, I'm really close with my boss. It's fine, I'll call her. So I called my boss at like 15 minutes after I spoke to them. And I was like, hi, like I'm at Royal Perth. And before I could finish my, what I was going to tell her, I ended up going to cardiac arrest. So she obviously, like I could hear her. And I don't know, it was a bit scary.
Explain what that felt like.
So I kept being like it's like you could feel your heartbeat, like it was like thumping. And then all of a sudden it was getting faster and faster. And I was like, okay, the guy's already mentioned that I'm tachycardic. So I didn't think it was going to go into anything. And like they were like, were you nervous to call your boss? And I'm best friends with my boss. So there was no nerves whatsoever, just really understanding. So I was not nervous to call her at all. And it was just really weird. And I was like losing my breath. And I got like this shooting pain up my neck, and then it went down my arm. And then I like took this, like, it sounds really dramatic, like a last breath. And I was like, and I just hurt. I just felt like this crashing pain on my chest. And then all the alarms went off, and she's still on the phone. So she's like heard the whole thing like unravel. But she obviously didn't know. Like I could hear her going, Brittany, 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 because I didn't get to say if I was in for myself or if I was in for a family member or what was going on. So I remember thinking, like, I'm about to die. It sounds really bad. And my boss is like, I didn't tell my family I was in hospital. I didn't tell, like, I knew that they would be very disappointed with what they had told me. And I was like, I'm about to die and she's going to hear me on the phone. Like, that was all I could think about. And then they didn't have to resuscitate me or anything. Ended up calling a code blue. And then they're like, we're going to do your ECG now. And I never ended up finding out the results of that again. And then, like, you need to calm down. And I'd passed out and come back to. But they're like, you need a rest. So they were talking about putting in an IV drip to give me antibiotics. But they still, at this point, hadn't mentioned what they thought was going on or what was happening. The only point was when I'd mentioned the vaccine, that they had pushed me through really quickly, and chest pain, obviously you get pushed through a bit quickly. But there's no word of like, you found this or we've had this happen, etc. So then about like 20 minutes after that, they ended up doing an ultrasound, and they were like, we think you've got pericarditis. Have you heard about it? Which obviously, if you have been on the news, a lot of people have heard about it. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was something to do with the heart, but I didn't know what the extent of it was. So
explain what it is to those who don't know.
So there's two that people are hearing about at the moment, is pericarditis and myocarditis. So from my understanding, pericarditis is the inflammation of the outside of your heart, so your pericardium, and your myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle itself. So they kept saying, we think you have this, we think you have it. And then they kind of left for 15 minutes, and it was like quite a quick process. Like from the time I'd left, entered, and at this point it was only been like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So it all happened quite quickly. And they came back and they said, we're going to diagnose you with pericarditis. And there was something else, wasn't there? Like I had a cardiac event, which was on the cardiac stress, severe cardiac stress on the discharge papers. And they said, we're going to give you some medication, and you're going to take 1 in the morning and 1 at night, or it was 3 times a day or 2 times a day or something, of this drug called colchicine. And basically I can stay in, but there's nothing they can do for me. So it was in my best interest to go home and rest. And this is about like 45 minutes after I just had a heart attack. So it was very like, once they figured out what was wrong, like pushed you out the door basically. So anyway, I got told that I needed to see a cardiologist. So I went home, I called my nana and told her what happened. And the next day I went back home, and because I'd stayed at my partner's the night before, So I didn't stay at the hospital overnight, I was only in for those few hours. Went back home, and we basically decided to do the vaccine reaction, what's it called? When you report an adverse reaction. Yeah. So we started that process, and at this point I was like really fit. I'm still feeling all the symptoms, not as intense, and I'm still on this medication. So it was only supposed to be taken for the 7 days, and they said most people in a traditional pericarditis, you get over it quite quickly. Obviously mine being caused from the mRNA in the Pfizer, now I know it's going to be a bit more of a long road to recovery. So I went on it for 7 days. I'd missed work for the week, rested. I still had the chest pain. I was loss of breath, palpitations, etc. Then we got an email from the vaccine surveillance team or whatever they are, Waves. They said that they'll be in touch to talk to me about what the next steps further are. So you get referred to an immunologist through them. And that's a very long wait list. Like mine was in January and it's mid-April now, and I've still not seen them. And a lot of people I know don't see them for like 9-10 months. And if you don't do your own, if you don't push for anything, some people end up having a second jab even though they're not even fully cleared because of the wait list that they're experiencing from the thousands of people that are having the issues. So, which is ridiculous within itself. But what happened? I went back to work after a week, and it was...
What were you feeling like then?
Very fatigued, still chest pain. It was easing off as the week went on, but I'm doing nothing. So you can't live laying on the lounge and having your nana and your auntie do everything for you. And there's no way of life. So I then went back to work, and the chest pain started again. And the first day I was kind of like, okay, it's your first day back at work. Your body's been under stress.
Can I ask what you do?
I'm a beauty therapist. So on my fetal day, which a 20-year-old normally can deal with, most people can deal with being on their fetal day. And it's not a very stressful job. Like I can sit and I do skin a lot, and it's not a very stressful environment whatsoever. So went back to work on a Monday, and I have Tuesday off. So I had I was really feeling all the symptoms again, but I was like, it's okay, I'm resting tomorrow. On the Wednesday again, I'd now come off of the medication. I'd done my 7 days. Chest pain came back the exact same. And I'd messaged my nana and I was like, I think I'm going to have a heart attack again. Obviously, you're still in fear of what has just recently happened. You think it's happening again. And I was kind of freaking out. And she was like, you need to go to hospital. So I now went back to the emergency department, and the next morning, and I was like, I'm having chest pain. Again, I've got my referral letter because the hospital previously that I'd been to had said if you take this referral letter, you can get straight through to emergency. You've got an issue. They'd said that it was from the vaccine. They didn't write it on the piece of paper, but they'd said you've had an adverse reaction. So I had thought, okay, well, I've got this piece of paper. I've got chest pain again. I'd spoken to my doctor and he was like, there's nothing we can do for you here. You're going to have to go back to emergency. I went to this hospital and I waited for 45 minutes. When I went through, I said, okay, I've got pericarditis from the vaccine. And the lady was like, has this been proven or is it just your own research doing this? And I was like, no, I've got this referral note. We should absolutely nothing at this hospital. So I waited for 45 minutes in the waiting room as I was sitting there with chest pain still. My heart was very fast as well. So I was extremely tachycardic again because they had the heart monitor put on me. Meanwhile, there's guys with like a broken leg getting wheeled through before me, although I've just had a heart attack a week and a half prior. So as soon as I mentioned that it was from the vaccine, it was like this automatic blind eye. Like they didn't take it seriously whatsoever. Like it was ridiculous. And I'm sitting there with chest pain. I called the nurse over and I was like, I'm having really bad chest pain. She's like, you'll get seen when we can get you in. Although this guy literally there's people that were so lower down that shouldn't have been seen, as opposed to someone who's just had a serious cardiac issue at 20. Like it's not like I'm an elderly person or severely overweight. Like I'm 20 years old. I'm a healthy person. Well, what's healthy? So then I went through I got told to sit. I went through with them 45 minutes later. Got told to sit on a bed, on a chair. Sorry, I wasn't allowed to sit on the bed. I had to sit on a chair. And
why did they say that? Did they give you a reason?
No. So they were just like, this is going to be a quick, this is going to be a quick in and out for you. We're just going to put you on the chair. You don't need to ruin a bed, basically. Well, one of the nurses did say I didn't need to ruin the bed. So I sit there for about, how long do you reckon that was, an hour? It was a very long time. I just sat there. So although I'd moved from the waiting room to like the next step through to emergency, a nurse did my obs, said my heart was tachycardic and I'll wait for a doctor basically. And I did say, I was like, it's from the vaccine. I've had a reaction to the vaccine. They knew that. They had the letter previously to state that. And then I was kind of getting really agitated at this point because they're doing nothing. You're sitting in you're sitting with bad chest pain. And for people that don't know, when you have pericarditis, usually it's worse when you sit like straight. You need to lay down. So I ended up moving myself onto the bed at this point. I think I was like calling my auntie crying because no one was seeing me. It was like, they just didn't care. It was literally like I was there and I could hear them next door with the guy that had a broken leg or the person that had come in for a toothache. Like I could hear them next door, and you would think someone who's had a heart issue would be seen more than a broken leg. Yeah. Anyway, at this point they went and took me through to do my ECG. The same thing, they were showing my heart was unstable. And then I got put through, I did my ECG, came back to the... Yes, they couldn't find a monitor for a very long time. So I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I was getting a little bit like flustered. You're in pain and you're in a hospital, the place you should be getting seen to the most, and no one was helping you. So I went to the bathroom, and as I was walking down, there was rows, like cubicles of people with chest pain. Although no one said it was from the vaccine, it was pretty obvious. There were rows of people with the ECGs. There's like 15 monitors all in use. So they couldn't find one for me. Yeah, they're all young people as well. And then then there was, I will never forget this, there was this one girl, she was obviously just turned 18, and her mum was she was in the end room, and her mum was saying, someone needs to come see her. She was in pain, she's got chest pain, and she was like, she only had the jab a week ago, but the mum hadn't been vaccinated. And for people who aren't from WA, you have to be vaccinated to go into hospitals. So this mum was like crying, and she's like, she's only just turned 18, like I need to be with her. And this poor mum was like hysterically crying because they're not letting her through to be with her daughter who's has really bad chest pain. And they're like, someone needs to come see her, like I need to go through. And from what I can gather, she only freshly turned 18. Like the mum was like, her birthday was only I don't know if it was days or weeks ago, but she's like a child, she's young. So then I went back through and that's when I did my ECG. And then I had this nurse come through and say, we noticed that it's time for your your second jab. You had the argument with the doctor? Yeah, but not at that point yet. So they said, it's time for you to have your second, we can administer it now if you want. And I said to the lady, I was like, hey, I'm in here because of the vaccine, why would I have another one? She's like, then they do the whole COVID spiel, it's a deadly virus and blah, 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 and you're having it in an administered area and you're going to be safe. Meanwhile, I've not been seen for the one issue that the vaccine has caused me. So that was a bit frustrating. And then the doctor came through and he was like, we can't prove that it's from the vaccine. And I was getting he was like, you have a history of anxiety, it's from anxiety. And I was like, it's nothing to do with anxiety, I've already been told, etc. And anxiety doesn't get your heart rate to 180 beats per minute sitting down. So I was having an argument with him. I was like, I'd been to that hospital before with anxiety, and I said, you did my heart scan. It will be in your history when you did it last time that you told me my heart was perfect and there was nothing wrong. So now you're telling me that it wasn't perfect and that this is now anxiety. So you're contradicting yourself. So he then suggested that I should talk to someone. And I turned around and I was like, you trying to get me like psych evaled? And this one nurse who was next to him like shook her head and was like, yes. I think she knew what was happening because she had spoken to me a few times and was like, I'm so sorry that you've had to deal with this. I don't think you should have another one. She was really lovely. But this doctor was like, I just think it's in your best interest that you have a chat to one of our psychologists. Yeah, because I had said to him, I said, I'm not alone. You can clearly see what's going on, can't you? There's like lines of people with chest pain and ECGs. Like, it can't be that stupid. And he was, he's like, what are you implying he's like, what are you trying to imply, basically? And he said that to me. I was like, I don't need to try and imply something, you know what's going on. And he was like, I think it's best that you have a chat to someone. So I ended up getting quite angry.
Can I ask how old was he?
Probably I reckon late 30s, mid 30s. So obviously we had our differences of opinion, which I then went back to him. I said, despite what I may think is going on and what you think is going on, the fact is I do have a heart issue now, whatever you think it is from, and you're still not doing anything, and I've been here for 3 hours and I've only just been seen in the last 45 minutes. So he said, we're going to put you back on culture scene, which I'm now, at this point I was put on this drug for 6 months. So I've gone from a week being on this medication to 6 months, and it was twice a day, and now it's 3 or 4 times a day that I have to take the tablet. So for people who also don't know what that tablet is, it can make you very unwell. So you can get upset tummy, you can vomit, sweat. So you're already on something that your body doesn't agree with, from something your body doesn't agree with. And I've now had to up my dosage of it. And I was sick almost every day with it at that point. I was vomiting every day. And he said that's just a side effect of it. So it also causes heart problems. Yeah, and it also is known to cause quite severe heart problems, which contradicts why I'm on it. And then they did an ultrasound, and no one mentioned what the ultrasound said. He basically said that I'd be fine to go back to work. I'd take the medication and like if I have any issues, come back to ED. So I left and I then went to see a cardiologist. Getting into a cardiologist in Perth has now been very extremely difficult to get into a cardiologist. So the public wait lists were like 6 to 9 months. And this nurse that spoke to me was like...
That's around Australia.
Is it?
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. And this nurse was like, it's in your best interest that you go private and you need to get this sorted. So I went to see... It took me how long to get into a cardiologist, do you reckon?
Well, there were 2 cancellations.
Yeah, there was 2 cancellations. So I was booked... This was in February at this point, and I was booked in to see them probably, I think it was May, end of May, mid-A.
4 months.
4 months. So, and that was the earliest I could get me in on. And I was an urgent, so I had an urgent referral. So then I was still struggling to breathe at this point. So my auntie was like, we're getting you a mask exemption. And we went to our local doctor to get a mask exemption, who once again was like, you can't prove that it's from the jab, was very dismissive about the whole situation, was quite rude about it all. Anyway, we had the proof that I've had a reaction, so she ended up giving me a one month or 1 week. What was it? It was a week for no mask. Keep in mind, we're very hot over here as well, so, and WA had extremely strict mandates about wearing a mask. Like, basically everywhere you had to wear one. So it was really hot. You're struggling to breathe anyway. You have a stupid mask on and you have a heart issue which you're struggling to breathe anyway. So it was just ridiculous. And then I got into my cardiologist. I got on 2 cancellations. So May got forward to April, and then April got forward to early March. So, and that was mainly my doing because I was calling them every other day, and I was like, do you have a cancellation? Do you have a cancellation? And I ended up getting seen to cardiologist. So, yeah, they're like, it was $600 for 30 minutes to see a cardiologist. No, so for 30 minutes. So you only get a 30-minute appointment, and that the Medicare doesn't cover anything. Well, they cover like, I think it was $80 or something. And then if you call HBF, they will say they don't cover any injury from a trial vaccine drug. So you're paying for private health insurance, which doesn't cover you. So that was quite frustrating as well. And then they were also like, what 20-year-old has heart issues? So I can understand their point of view, but you're paying for something that they're also a part of pushing, and now they're not dealing with the repercussions of what they're pushing. So it's a statewide thing, and no private health will cover you for COVID-19 injuries, vaccine injuries. Like, I'm still experiencing all the same things. I can't exercise. I recently moved into a house with my partner, and we've got stairs, and 9 times out of 10, or 10 times out of 10, I'm usually out of breath, chest pain, every time I go up them. So that's really frustrating as well, and just the most exciting time of your life. You just bought your first home, and you can't even go up the stairs, like without chest pain, losing your breath, etc.
Can I ask, what did the cardiologist say? So
I ended up seeing him. I went through an ECG, and on my ECG it says like my left, I've got left side enlargement of my heart, and my left ventricle is blocked. And blocked. So it's not really mentioned that any further. Yeah, it has a blockage. So I'm seeing him in a few weeks, so we'll go down that path. But the biggest issue was he went in, he was lovely. He was a very lovely cardiologist. He said, this is from the vaccine.
So he actually said that?
Yeah, so he's written from it, and it's on paper as well. He said pericarditis following your COVID-19 vaccine. So I was really surprised because I went in there thinking my last experiences with the hospitals and everything going on, I was going to have to prove my point. But no, he went, he said it straight up. He was like, you're unfortunately in a very unlucky, you're one of the very few that have had an injury to the vaccine. So so that happened, and he's like, I want to just test your heart rate sitting down. So I went into the room. I didn't move. I was sitting just like you were, as I am with you. He came over and put a oximeter on my hand, and basically my heart rate was sitting at 130 beats per minute. So I didn't know anything about the heart rate. Your heart rate should be sitting when you're sitting down, resting, should be between like 60 to 80. Yeah. And I'm sitting there with 130 beats per minute. So then he's like, I want you to stand up. And then it went to 160. And then he's like, I want you, and he'd wait like a few minutes every time in between. And then I'd lay down and do it again, and it kept jumping. So a side effect from pericarditis is POTS. So a lot of people, which is basically your heart can't keep up with itself. So I've still got pericarditis. I'm being explored for myocarditis because the inflammation is so bad. And when I didn't know this, but when you have an oximeter, your oxygen should mirror your not mirror, it should be the opposite of what your heart rate's doing. Okay. So if your oxygen's down, your heart rate is usually trying to overcompensate for not having oxygen, so it's going faster. But my oxygen is perfect. So that's he was saying that's an indication that it's solely just your heart is completely having issues. So once again, it's a non-traditional pericarditis because it's been induced by a vaccine. So my heart rate is always like that. The other day I went up the stairs and it went to 180 beats per minute. So I shouldn't say never.
How do you know that? Are you monitoring it constantly?
Yeah, so I had to buy, again, out of pocket, a heart thing. And I was then put onto colchicine for the next 13 months. I was put onto ivabradine, propranolol. Yeah, there's no discounts for because... And he was like, are you happy to buy this? Medicare only cover it for 65-year-olds who have had heart failure. So I'm a 20-year-old and I'm on a medication for people who are over 65 who have heart failure. And I'm on aspirin. So I basically like a little candy shop with all these things I have to take. And it's not just like you take one tablet in the morning, like you have to take all four and then something else and then maintain it. It's just you have to take so many tablets. And then I was still experiencing the same thing. I'd been on the tablets for a while, 2 weeks, and nothing was changing. So I called him and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I've been on this and nothing is changing. I'm out of breath. I've got chest pain. So he just said, up the dosage. So that happened a few times of us having a phone call back and forward. The same thing. I have upped all of the tablets to the max dose that they can be on. And then when did I have COVID? So I had COVID, which...
Then you got COVID?
Yeah, then I got COVID, which was like 4 weeks ago. And that was fine. Like it was literally, in my personal experience, I had a runny nose and a headache. And I'm unvaccinated. So anyway, I've got opinions on that. So then I've ended up spending a day in hospital because I had severe, very, very severe chest pain. Yes, I called the hospital and they're like, you need to go to hospital. You've got your pericarditis is flaring up. So I went through and I was about there for 12 hours, a different hospital again, so I went through them, and I was put through straight away. You can have COVID, so you get put through to a different section to everyone, put on the ECG, and my heart rate was going crazy again, but there's nothing they can do. So they're like, you're already maxed out, you've had aspirin, I'm on blood thinners, I'm on the heart anti-inflammatory.
You're on blood thinners at 20?
For the block.
Okay.
So I've maxed out on everything that I can be at that point. So they're like, we're just going to have to monitor you. So I spent about 12 hours or 13 hours there. And they called the cardiologist. And he was just like, it's basically moving forward. For people who don't know as well, pericarditis is usually from a bacterial infection or viral infection. so you can get it from your colds, etc. So he said moving forward, she's going to have to be careful with any cold or flu she get, because when there's inflammation in your body, it's exacerbating what's going on with my heart.
Yeah.
So he basically said there's nothing we can do. Still having chest pain. I looked. Yeah, they gave me another tablet, like a heart medication, but there was nothing. It was like, you may as well just go home and rest. So which wasn't very, like, I was quite scared. Like, I called my auntie and I was like in tears, and every time you're thinking, is this gonna, today, am I gonna have a heart attack again? Like, and how much can your body actually deal with before your body's like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So I ended up going home, and that basically happened. So I ended up having a heart monitor last week, put on a Holter monitor for 24 hours. And
that you could wear at home? Or?
Yeah, so it gets monitored like an ECG. So you don't get to see what's happening. You get like a little lanyard and it sticks to you. And I had that on for 24 hours because the cardiologist wants to see what's going on. Basically, he's maxed me out on all the drugs that I can be. I've rested. I don't drink anymore. Like, I can't have alcohol. I can't go to the gym. I can't really do a lot. So I've done everything he said. So I don't know the results of that yet, and I'll find out in 2 or 3 weeks. But that was that I had my chest pain and my heart rate went to 180 beats per minute whilst I had that monitor on. So I do know that there'll be something they find, like there'll have to be. Yeah. Because I had chest pain, so I checked myself and it was the same night that I had the Holter monitor on. So yeah, that's kind of where we are today. Yeah, they want to do an MRI. So I'll also be booking that in the next time I see him.
Which you have to pay for?
Yeah, which you have to pay for. So you have all your medication, you have to pay for your heart monitor, your phone calls. Every time you call a cardiologist, you get charged like telehealth.
How much is that?
So I called him 3 times in a week, and it was how much was it? $620, do you think? It was like $620 because one was like
$620 for 3 calls.
Yeah, so one was, and they're 15 minutes or less. One was an emergency because he was called from the hospital. So I didn't call him, the hospital called him. And then
But you got charged.
And I got charged for it. And a public hospital was calling. And then the other 2 were me. And he was basically, like, my partner heard, he was like, "Hi, how are you?" I said, "What's happening?" And just a checkup. Yeah, it was just a checkup. It wasn't like he was giving you advice or anything, but so
He doesn't want to do the MRI.
he's very weird about doing an MRI, which I'm not sure why, because he's very convinced at the moment that I've got myocarditis as well because the inflammation isn't settling itself down. But he has explained that if I do an MRI, I'll have the contrast, so the dye put in, and I'll do half with the dye and half without the dye. So I think that'll be happening in the future, but that's my story as of now at the moment.
Well, would you mind staying in touch so we do follow-ups rather than you just coming doing this one thing, having a continued base so we can follow this to see what happens?
Yes, I can.
Including how the state treats you because you haven't taken the further vaccines.
Yeah, so I got, another thing is I did get an exemption. The first time I went to apply for it was quite tricky, and doctors are very hesitant to give you one, although it's on a piece of paper what's going on. And then the second time, so it didn't get failed, they just didn't do it properly, and it was a bit weird. So they didn't upload it or something happened and never ended up going through. But I obviously, at this point I was starting university as well, and some universities in WA ended up bringing in mandates.
And what are you studying?
A Bachelor of Health Science.
To do what?
I wanted to go into nursing, but I'm thinking at the moment more natural medicine. Knowing my experience of what's happened, I have a few questions about modern day medicine and things that are going on.
A few questions.
Yeah, a few questions.
You're asking them, you're going to run out of money.
I know. And I wanted to go into nursing originally, but to be a nurse, you've got to be like vaccinated to like the brim with everything. And I just don't think my body can deal with anything, and nor do I want to take anything for personal reasons. But so I ended up getting exemption. They only give it to me for 6 months, which ends out in August 22nd. So the 22nd of August 2022. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at that point. And the second time that I went in to apply, which was quite interesting. So normally if you go into a doctor, you go in by yourself and your doctor would be there. So when I went into the doctor to get my exemption, I had the owner of the doctor's surgery, like the clinic, and I had a witness. But it was just really weird. And I had my doctor. So there was 3 other guys in the room and myself also, which is really strange because if anyone goes to a doctor, you don't go in with 3 other guys. And like the clinic owner, they're never in for the thing. Anyway, so they were actually quite lovely about it in the end. They fast-tracked it and I got it within 24 hours. So, yeah, it's been a very interesting experience. And I know some people might ask why I haven't claimed against it. So if everyone doesn't know, you can only claim once for compensation if you've been vaccine injured. Obviously, I've got quite a road to go with that. And they've said that you have to have spent a night in hospital. So I was not in hospital for a night, as both times I was discharged and asked to leave.
I'm hearing this a lot.
Yeah, so it's quite frustrating when you're 20 years old and you would rather spend almost $1,200. I think I'm up to like $2,000 or $3,000 that I've spent.
And you've got your mortgage.
And I've got a mortgage, and I'm paying, like, you pay university, you've got life things, and I wanted to plan a 21st birthday, and I've got a doctor's appointment a week and a half earlier, so the Lord knows how much that's going to cost. Because
and how about work?
My work's quite good with it. My boss has been quite incredible. She was always 50-50 about it. And it's quite interesting because her husband now is experiencing pericarditis as well. So I think she can understand more than others as well what I'm going through. So I need to take time off or do anything. She's, without question, has always said, you do what you need to do. Your health's more important. But you do feel judged. Like, my boss is good, but there are other employees that are very for the man for it. Which I understand, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but you cannot ignore the facts of what's happened. So it's quite, you do have your like issues with people, like personal issues, when they're sitting there like, oh, thank God McGowan's done this, or thank God we have the vaccine, because you're sitting there like, he's ruined my life completely. So they have no idea. Another thing, the cardiologist has no idea when I will heal from this because it's not traditional. And he has no idea how long it's going to take. They're on all the medication I can be. I'm doing everything everything like I've been asked to do. It's just like little things. Oh, sorry. I'm unfortunately not blessed to eat things and not put on weight. I can't exercise. And that was getting to me quite a lot. Like, I'm not the most fittest person in the world, but I did used to go to the gym with friends and stuff. You can't go out and have a drink with your friends, and like high histamine foods, so things if they're spicy or will cause inflammation in your body, you can literally feel your chest start to go. So I follow a lot of people with pericarditis on Easter, they struggled because chocolate makes your inflammation worse. So it's just like little things in life that people can't, like, you get people that say, I'm so sorry this happened to you. And you look fine. And that's the worst thing, is you look fine to someone, but they don't understand how much it's affects your life. Like, you can't do things. Like, if I go to the shops, we have a shopping centre in WA, Carousel, it's got stairs, and sometimes the escalator doesn't work. And you're like, I'm screwed. Like, and people look at you, they think you're fine. So if you're going past and you're seeing a 20-year-old struggling to go up the stairs, you're like, God, what's wrong with her? Like, you look fine. And that's the frustrating thing. Like, it's not just affected my health, it's like mentally challenging. It's just shit. There's no other way to say it. It's so messed up.
Is there anything else you want to say? 'Cause that's a perfect ending.
I think that's everything. It's just, yeah.
Well, let's. I'm quite happy to stay in touch and give touch, like say a monthly update, or if something happens more, you want to do it quicker. But I'm doing it with some other people.
Yeah.
Sally in Colac, who's really suffering, a farmer. Are you happy to do that? I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I can speak to you after my next cardiologist appointment because I will get a few results back then. And
mention to your cardiologist that you're doing this on Cafe Lockdown. We won't mention his name.
I will. He's quite nice, a little bit. I'm not sure he knows what's going on really, but
He should be $600 an hour.
yeah, he's $600 an hour. He's half an hour, sorry. Because I remember I went into the appointment and I was like, shit, if he goes over half an hour, like,
I have a heart attack just from the
I was
cost.
like, having to pay this is going to be ridiculous. So yeah, I'll definitely keep in touch and let you know what's going
It's
on.
horrendous, love. It's horrendous. I'm so sorry. It's horrendous. It's horrendous.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's annoying that some people are so blindsided.
Yeah.
Like you don't, like believe what you want, do what you want. I don't have it if you want to have it. You do you. But it's split so many people and you shouldn't be dismissing the people that have had issues or dismissing people that have different opinions on things. Yeah, it's disgraceful. Yeah, there should always be a choice.
Exactly. Okay.
If I could be anything for you, I would be your cure. I'd pour light into your wounds to soak their poison into the potions of love, into the golden and smoldering potion of love.
So help has arrived and we're very
And
grateful.
as their darkness drained, I would tear apart your cage, remolding the bars that held you into your destined wings, into your destined wings, flying above us all in your destined wings.
Absolutely gorgeous. We were the only people parked.
If from your flight you return, I would have sewn a blanket for you, cut fresh from the curative fabric of spring. But hopefully you'd fly off to that destination you were born with, the one they tried to steal from your soul. That destination you were born with, the one they tried to steal from your soul. If I could be anything for you,
I'd like to say a huge thank you to
I would be your
everyone
cure.
who's come out and supported Michael and Cafe Lockdown to continue doing our good.
If I could be anything for you, I would be your cure. I would tear apart your cage, remolding the bars that held you into your destined wings, your destined wings, your destined wings, your destined wings. Fly, just fly. Realize all that is holding you down. A concept anything for you. If I could be anything, I would be your cure. I would be your cure. I would be your cure. If I could be anything for you, I would be your cure. I'd pour light into your wounds to soak their poison into the potions of love, into the golden and smoldering potions of love.